Hello everybody, it's Mary Amick. Yes, Debbie, I just went live. It's Mary Amick at Yard Art or Us. I hope you guys are doing good. I'm putting a little bit of Windex on here, let y'all jump on. Debbie just messaged me and said, are you live yet? I was like, I'm working on it. Hey Ash, I'm running a little late, but it's all good. Just Windex this. And today, or actually tonight, it's not going to take very long, but I got my little sunflower pumpkin. Hey Debbie, I saw that you just messaged me earlier. I'm running a little late. It's not like me, is it? I'm usually always on time. So I'm going to do this tonight. It's going to be really easy, I think. I don't think it's going to take too much time, but what I want to do is I want to finish this for you guys. I can just kind of show you, but I want to also remind you that Miss Victoria is going to do this same exact pumpkin. She's going to do it, in fact, 2 weeks from tonight on the 21st of October. So you're going to get like my version, which is probably going to be a lot more plain Jane than Miss Victoria's version. Yeah, not like me at all, is it, Debbie? I'm usually kind of on the spot, but I was getting a lunch ready for tomorrow, so I was cooking some, I was browning some roast meat to have for lunch tomorrow, so I kind of got a little bit, pulling an Ashley. So good. Hello, how are you? Alex, good to see you. Ashley, Debbie, Andrea, so good to see you guys. So I'm going to be painting this tonight, and then Miss Victoria in 2 weeks on October the 21st, 2 weeks from tonight, is also going to be doing this same version, or the same pumpkin. It'll be different, I'm sure, because we paint differently, but I'm excited to see what she's going to do as well. So you guys will get two different versions of the same item. So I'm going to do my version tonight. And I'm also at the end of this, if you don't want to watch, no big deal. But for those of you that are just kind of joining us in our painting venture, maybe you've only seen us a little bit. I'm going to, at the end of this, be base coating and showing you how I would base coat the item that I'm going to do in the Academy on Monday. So we're going to do this tonight, and then I'm going to do some base coating for you. A couple of things. This is just a plain Jane pumpkin, but I think what makes it cute, or to me, what I like about it, is you've got this sunflower kind of coming off the edge here. And so I base coated it in a light orange, number 16 light orange. And then of course this is that light yellow, and then here's your nutmeg. And up here is our reindeer brown. That thought was leaving my head for a minute. So anyway, I ordered this brush from Amazon. I don't usually use angled brushes. It's just not ever been my thing. So I'm going to try a little bit tonight, because I want you to see what it's like to try to learn to use something new. Like you already know, some of you already know that if you're dealing with shading. All right. So I'm going to just kind of do like I always do, even on the flat tip brush. And I'm just going to kind of come in here with this angle and just give it a little bit of a shade in here, using that tip right there. And really, it's not a whole lot different, I don't think. It might give you a little bit different look right here. But I thought, get out of your comfort zone. You're not used to dealing with an angular brush, but it is not going to hurt you to try something different. So I'm going to play with this tonight. Now, the jury will be out on this, and we'll see what we think. It doesn't seem so far, it doesn't seem real different than just a regular brush. But you do seem to get kind of a wide stroke here. So I think that part I like. And I'm bearing down on that brush. I think you can tell that too. So today was a good day. Got a lot of stuff done here. We've been feverishly working on Halloween and fall stuff. Hey Kathy, how are you? Sandy, how are you? So glad y'all could join us. Working on a pumpkin here. And there's not much to it. So after I finish him, I'm going to show you how I would... I'm going to be doing a scarecrow on Monday night in the Academy. So after I finish this, I'm going to show you how I would base coat that scarecrow. So I just kind of am taking to me, the sunflower just kind of makes this pumpkin really what it is. And so I'm going to work on that. Now, I have nutmeg here, and for whatever reason, one of my favorite things to go with, this is just a shading brush, is the shading red where there's that nutmeg. Okay. And I'm just going to kind of come in here because I just like kind of that look. For me, that's a real pretty look. Kind of dark, but a pretty look. So we're gonna let that part dry a little bit. And I'm gonna wash out my brush over here. So this is a pretty simple pattern, but to me you can't go wrong with a sunflower and a pumpkin. I love sunflowers and I love pumpkins, in case y'all couldn't tell. So yeah, today we've been working and getting a lot of stuff done. The weather's been good, although have y'all noticed if you're around here, it's getting kind of warm again. For a little while, I think we got a break from the heat, but I think it's back for a little bit. So I'm going to do just a little bit on this reindeer brown. I'm just going to do a little bit of shading on this stem up here. Not a whole lot, just a perimeter with one swipe in the middle. That's all I'm going to do on that guy. So now I'm ready to kind of go to the pumpkin, which is obviously the main component on this piece. And I'm going to use my shading orange, which is this right here. And I haven't used this in a while, so I'm going to have to do some stirring. I don't know if you guys have kind of caught on to the fact, like if you're watching Ashley and I, we do a lot of stirring and a lot of water. Also, I wanted to just kind of share with you guys, if you have an inkling and you don't hey Caitlin, how are you? So good you could join us. If you have an inkling and you want to see some of our videos and you really don't want to just go to the Facebook and kind of scroll and look, we do have a YouTube channel, Yard Arter Us. So if you go to YouTube and you type in Yard Arter Us, I think there's 50 something videos over there. Maybe a little bit easier because they're cataloged a little differently. The thumbnails are on there for each one. So like for example, tonight I'll post this one and the thumbnail will be the photo of this one. So hey Terry, how are you? So if you happen to want to try to check us out on YouTube, that thumbnail will be there. It might be a little easier to navigate if you're looking for something. So I'm going to go ahead and I always kind of start with my perimeter. And right at the very beginning, I just logged on this just a little bit a while ago. I haven't been on very long. I went ahead and Windex this piece because it had been sitting around in the shop getting dusty, you know, that kind of thing. So now what I probably do at this point, so you can kind of imagine at your 3 points right here, right? You can kind of imagine that pumpkin might be something like this. So what I would do is I would probably start up here and just kind of come down to that, right? And then kind of come over here to that. So you're just kind of really starting to give this pumpkin a little bit of, I guess a shape, if you will. There's not a lot to this guy. I think really the sunflower is what makes him. Okay, now while I have that out, I'm going to take the end of this brush. This is something you can do, just see what you like in terms of the dots. This is a smaller brush, so it makes my dots smaller. So obviously the smaller the dots you have, the number of dots you're going to put. Smaller dots, you're going to make a lot more dots. Bigger dots, you're going to make fewer dots. But a dot is a dot is a dot, so it really doesn't matter. If you want something bigger, you could always use like the pouncer. But if you're lazy sometimes like me and you ain't feeling going and find something that you don't know where it's at, this will get you by in a pinch, so just use the end of your brush. Now, also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my script liner here. Hey, Candy, how are you? So glad you could join us. Dolores, how are you? I'm doing something pretty simple tonight, but I still think it's cute. It's a sunflower pumpkin. Miss Victoria's going to do her the same template, the same pattern in 2 weeks. So we're going to have 2 different versions of the same item. Kind of give you a multiple choice, if you will. So I still have this shading orange out, and notice I'm just kind of loading that brush up quite a bit, aren't I? I'm going to back off a little and just take a little bit of it off, and then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do just some outlining on my sunflower. I don't know, you know, you can't pass up or I can't pass up a sunflower. I really like them. They're always So pretty. So we're gonna do something like that. And I'm just kind of coming in here and making some strokes where I did some shading earlier with the shading yellow. I'm just gonna come back and put a little bit of a brush stroke with the shading orange. And then of course I'll come over here and I'll do something like this, something like that. And probably I'm gonna leave, I think at this point I've got enough shading orange on there. Now, this is something I'm really kind of surprised I haven't talked about before, because I know that sometimes when you're looking at purchasing things, we all have a budget we have to consider. And so if you're in a scenario where maybe something calls for a lot of different colors of paints, you don't necessarily have to do that. Hey Deborah, how are you? I'm so glad you could join us. You don't necessarily have to do that. So I know that I want the red orange in here, right? So, and I'm not, let's just say I don't want to buy red orange because maybe you don't use red orange a lot. So don't be afraid. I'm going to create a little bit of red orange. If you happen to have the shading orange and you have some red, just some regular red, that's really all that red orange is. It's just some kind of like that. Maybe I'll put a little bit more in there, but I'm going to start small. And I'm going to stir it up till I see I get more red in here, right? So I'm going to have quite a bit more. So if you don't want to buy red orange, you don't necessarily have to. Just kind of come in here, get you some red if you already have red. It's all about, it's the same thing like if you're in the kitchen cooking and you want a recipe. This happened to me tonight. Luckily I got lucky. Paula, my sister, lives here in the back. She has a different place. But anyway, she happened to have the ingredient I was missing. So, but if you are missing an ingredient in your recipe, you know that sometimes you can get away with just not using it or substituting it. It's kind of the same thing in painting. If you don't have a specific color you need, or you're not apt to spend, you know, you don't want to buy a lot of different colors, it's okay. Just do some mixing up on your own. Especially if you do it in a small quantity and you don't like it, just throw it in the trash. Not that big a deal. So, if you don't want to buy red orange, you can always make it with the shading orange and putting some red in there. Okay, so let me get, I use the same script liner. Hi, am I saying your name right? Is it Dawn? Or, I hope I'm not butchering your name. And you know, I was an English teacher for many years, so I always thought I know how to pronounce people's names, but that's not always the case. So if I butchered your name, I'm so sorry. So what I'm going to do is I've got what's equivalent of a red orange because I mixed it myself. And I'm going to come in here with my script liner. And I'm just going to do this. And probably what I would do this time is I'll do my red orange and make them a little bit bigger than my other orange, just using the end of the script liner, the brush. Earlier I used the wooden end of the handle of the brush. Of course in this I'm using, and there's no right or wrong on your dots, just kind of get them to where you want them to be, what you think looks good, however you want to say it. And now I like this red orange, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of come in here and just give it a little bit of one or two brush strokes here, there, and yonder, so to speak, if you know what I mean. Just kind of randomly putting some in here. Not a lot, just kind of giving it a little bit more color. That's it. All right, and then of course I'm going to come up here. I have a tendency on pumpkins to do dotted lines. You don't have to, that's just kind of I have a tendency to do that. And I just kind of take that brush and bounce it up and down a little bit. Almost like a stitch, you know, what you might imagine a stitch to look like. I think the reason I like this guy is he's so simple, but it's a good design. So. And I'm just kind of going around here, giving it some outline. That's all I'm doing. Now let me wash that out, and I'm going to pick up my shading red. And I think you guys have heard me say before, probably some of my favorite color combinations is your reindeer brown, your shading brown, and your shading red. This is what this is. This is the shading red. Hey, Rhonda, how are you? I'm so glad you could join us. We just got started a little bit late, not too much, but this is a super easy pattern, so we're not going to take a long time. I'm not going to take a long time on it, but I am going to talk to you about base coating if you want to watch a little bit in a minute. We're going to do some base coating. I am. Actually, not we, but I am. Okay, so all I did here is take my script liner and I just outlined that stalk in shading red. Now, you know, those of you who've watched this a lot, you know we're not going to stop until we get some white on this guy for our highlights, right? Okay. So, how do you know where to put the highlight? To me, you put the highlight where you see the most of the base color showing through. That light orange is my base color. So I'm going to kind of go do the highlights where I see a lot of it showing through. So in other words, I'm not putting the white highlight on top of any of my shading colors or my outline colors. I'm kind of going in there where I know there's no shading or outline. So I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to give it in just kind of some random brush strokes, nothing too serious. Just give it some white highlight here. And then I'd probably come over here and do this one. And then I'd probably come over here and do this one here. Okay. Now, I've got, well, I got a lot of dots in here, y'all, but that's just kind of me. Might be a little too much, but that's all right. Miss Victoria, I'm kind of excited to see what she does in 2 weeks, because I'm sure hers is going to look really different than mine. But that's kind of the point, to give you two different perceptions or two different ideas of what you could do with the same design. And notice I take some of them deliberately off the edge there. And really, that's all there is to this guy. It's I think I've been on here 15 minutes. Now I had this base coated, right? But I think he's probably one of my favorites because he is a simple design, or she, whatever. It's a simple design, but so pretty. I love the sunflower. To me, that's really what makes it. So I used light orange, 16 light orange. I used shading orange. I used red orange. I made my own red orange by just mixing some red and some shading orange. Here on the base is nutmeg, and all my dots would be white, red orange, and shading orange. Here's some shading red right here. Did my outline right here in that red orange. And then you've got your stalk. Reindeer brown is your color on the base. I shaded it in shading brown and I outlined it in shading red. I think it's super cute. All right, I'm going to put this over here under the dryer and I'm going to show you I painted this guy today is just, the only reason I painted this guy today gray, because that happened to be the color I had. That's the only reason. I was out there in the driveway and I had a gray roller. So this is the scarecrow that I'm actually going to do in the academy on Monday night. But I'm going to just talk to you a little bit about base coating, because some of you guys are just kind of joining us. And when we talk about base coating, you'll hear us talk a lot about mop brushes. That's kind of how we do everything, is with a mop brush. Because just like the word says, you can just mop that. Thank you, Debbie. I thought it looked really good too. You can just mop that paint all around wherever you want it. Hold on a minute, y'all. I'm missing a piece of paper I had. What the heck? Oh well. I had printed out a color copy of this guy because I can't remember, but I'll just go off what I think. So I'm going to just use some reindeer brown, and I'm going to just sit here first and work it back and forth. Really, I'm not even moving the paint for that. What I'm doing is loading my brush. So here's a loaded brush. That's my mop brush. So I'm going to just mop that paint kind of wherever I want it to go. And then, you know, you just follow the CNC line and there's your pattern. Can y'all see that? And notice I make long strokes, don't I? I have a lot of paint right there, so I'm going to basically take that paint and walk it down here. Now, when you're doing a fairly large area like I'm doing, notice I'm going up and down and back and forth. That's a good way to make sure you've got it really a good coverage. Because if you have a good base coat, life is going to be better for you when you start shading and all of that. So, let's do this guy. And y'all know that I go ahead and just kind of pounce this mop brush back and forth on the edges, covering those edges. Really, the edges are covered by gray right now. Technically, I don't even have to paint over them in the reindeer brown. I just do that because I like the looks. But as far as the edges being okay with just the gray paint, they're okay. They're fine. I just do it so I can get the look that I like. Doesn't mean you have to. If you want to base coat something and you don't know what color to go, gray is always good because you're going to get good coverage normally, covering up that gray. Because these paints are paint primer in one, they have pretty good coverage as far as hiding the color beneath it. Most of them. The exception, I would say, is red. That's the exception. It's harder to use red and cover any color. So I usually have a lot of red. I just start with red and base coat red first. And then notice I'm just kind of making long strokes. And then I just tap the side right here. So as far as that goes, that's about how much paint I'm going to put on there, right? And that way, I know I've got a good coverage of it using that mop brush. Now, if you choose not to use the mop brush, use a primer coat first. Yeah, that's basically, Debbie, what this gray is, that primer coat, if you want to think of it that way. Here's the thing, here's our terminology. Typically, when Ashley and I paint anything, we put one color on first, the whole enchilada, sometimes two times the same color. In this case, I said I used gray because I happened to be out in the driveway and that's all I had on the roller. So when we lay that first coat down, we call that our primer coat or our base primer coat. So that's what, in this case, it's gray. But yeah, the same thing. Now, all these colors that I'm putting on top of that, we just call that base coating colors. So, now on scarecrows, I tend to, not all the time, but most of the time, I tend to use scarecrow white on their faces. And in this case, this might save you a little bit of heartache too. Notice I'm just covering the face, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, and fixing to cover the hair. Why am I covering the hair? Because, you know, the hair is actually going to be yellow. But I'm covering it right now because I had gray on my roller, and so I just did everything in gray. And I know that yellow is going to need some help covering the gray. So I'm just going to go ahead and make the face and the hair scarecrow white. And I just kind of go back, one up and down, back and forth. Make sure I get a good even coat. And I do use quite a bit of paint. And oftentimes on scarecrows, most of the time, not always 100%, but oftentimes, I can just go ahead and cover that as part of his hair. I will do the face and the hands in the same color, that being scarecrow white. So I typically do the face and the hands in the same color. On scarecrows, not on everything, but on scarecrows. That's typically what I do. Okay. I had a little paint glob there, y'all. And so I'm just kind of going back and forth over his face, making sure I get that paint a really good coat. And I'm going to go over here and finish off his hair, because again, I'm just doing that hair because I know that yellow is not really going to cover that gray very well. So I'll go ahead and do this hair right now in scarecrow white, and then later on I'll base coat it in yellow. Notice sometimes I don't feel like bending over, and so sometimes I bring this piece up to my eye level just to make sure I've got what I want. Okay, so just about done with the face and the hair. It's all scarecrow white. Like so. I'm going to come down here and do his hand. He's got one hand showing. And I'm just going to do he's got his fingers right here. That'll be in Scarecrow White. Okay, so I know that I used the glitter or the Joy Red. I can't remember what we put it on, if we called it glitter red or Joy Red on the thing, but that's what so what is the best color for your base coat? In this case, I used gray. And when you're talking about an item, Sandy, that has a lot of colors, if you're talking about an item that has, this probably has 8 to 10 colors, you're almost kind of like bumfuzzled on what color should be my primer base coat, right? Typically the answer is always going to be whatever is the predominant color. Now this one has 8 colors. I don't think there is a predominant color. Therefore I just went ahead and did gray because I had gray in my roller. But let's say I didn't have gray. Okay, Debbie, glitter red, thank you. So let's say I wasn't out in the driveway with a roller in my hand. It wasn't great. What would I normally do? Because the predominant color on this guy, to me, I see more reindeer brown than anything. I probably would have done reindeer brown. So whatever your most predominant color would be is what I would start with. The only exception to that rule, I would say, Sandy, is if it's like a Santa Claus, make sure you start with red. Because if you try to do Santa Claus with white and then put red on top, you're not going to be happy because it's not going to go good. Red does not cover very well over the white, but the white will cover really well over the red, if that makes any sense. Okay, so I know this guy, I think, go see if I can find my light pink. I think, oh, here it is. This one's better, y'all. So his, let me do this part first so I don't get screwed up. The glitter red is what I'm going to use for his overalls. And really, I think of the glitter red, it's almost like a, I almost think of it as like an autumn red, meaning it's got a lot of brown in it, which I like and I think it's pretty. So I tend to use this a lot, this color, in fall. It looks good on turkeys. It looks good on scarecrows. You know, all of those sorts of things. You probably wouldn't see me use this color much in the springtime because I just think it looks good as a fall color. And I'm just taking my paint, and pardon my French, but sometimes you have paint boogers. I just take them and wipe them on my table is what I do, or on my apron. So I'm just kind of going back and forth and back and forth. Now, I'm just making sure all his overalls, let's see, let's go over here. Hold on, put some more paint right here, y'all. Bring that down. And I'm also going to come all the way down here. Ooh, this paint is not looking good, y'all. Hold on a second. Let me pull that out. There we go. Okay. Hey Jody, how are you doing? I'm so glad you could join us. I am painting, right now, base coating a scarecrow. In the very beginning of the video, I painted a sunflower pumpkin. So, right, and it was super fast. So I want to just kind of give you guys some, because a lot of times I have stuff base coated when I'm doing my videos. Hey Kimberly, how are you? Y'all have a lot of junk in this paint, so I'm thinking this paint is very old. So here's what I do. If I find a lot of junk in here, I just sit here and take it on a paper towel, because I'm not going to throw this paint away. I'm just going to get the junk out of it and kind of keep going. So in the beginning I did a sunflower pumpkin and it didn't take long. So now I'm showing you guys what it would kind of look like to base coat. What I do when I base coat. And I basically use a mop brush and just mop the paint on in the base color pattern that I want. Let me throw that in the trash. Okay. I'm gonna do this. Just putting some more paint on there is all I'm doing. I'll just go ahead and cover that whole thing up. And again, I just take my mop brush and kind of gently bounce it up and down on the sides. Some jump in there. Alright, let's go over here. I really don't know what I'm going to do with this. Let me think about this, y'all. So this has got to be my overall. So this has all got to be my pink shirt. I'm going to have a shirt to be pink. Hey, Debbie, how are you? Hi, Lori, how are you guys? I'm so glad y'all could join us. I'll show you just a second what I painted in the very beginning so y'all can see if you were signing on to watch for the sunflower pumpkin. This is what I painted in the very beginning, so if you want to go back and watch that. But it didn't take me very long. It took me like 15 minutes because it's a pretty simple pattern. So I'm showing you guys how to base coat right now. Something that I don't show a whole lot because usually when I do videos, my stuff's already base coated. So I'm using my mop brush. First thing I'm going to do is load up the brush, right? And then I just mop that paint to wherever I want it to go. Really just following that CNC line is all I'm doing. So notice I got a little boo-boo right here, some little red paint in there. I'm so not worried about that because I know by the time I come in here and shade and highlight and outline this guy, so much of this pink is, your base coat, it just gets covered up. So really that base coat is just what the word says. Just get it as a base. If it's not perfect, no worries. I'm probably going to cover up so much of it anyway. So, and then I come over here and I just do like this. Just bounce that brush a little bit back and forth. And put some color on there. That's all I'm doing. I don't know how many scarecrows I've painted in my lifetime, but a lot of them. But I still don't get tired of them. I think they're super cute. And I actually covered it up over here, so I'm going to have to come back later. I've got part of that covered up with the wrong color. And I'm just going to kind of take some paint in there. Now, one thing I do typically do on scarecrows, because scarecrows tend to be, their bodies are so much the fall colors, which I love fall colors. I have a tendency, hey Joy, how are you? So glad you could join me. I love having you guys join me. It's super fun. I get to share with you guys something I'm very passionate about, in case you couldn't tell. So because all of my scarecrows, I tend to put such fall colors on there, sometimes I'll just kind of go ahead and do something up here that's maybe not as fall. I mean, still kind of fall. But in this case, what I might do, let's see what I want to do for a hat. Let's see. So many choices, y'all. So I think, now you don't have to do this color, but I think I'm gonna go with purple. You can make the hat any color you want. You could make it reindeer brown. You could make it red. I mean, you just name it. You could just do it almost anything. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to come over here. Now, you'll see in the Academy on Monday night, for those of you that are going to be watching, this thing, it doesn't really look good until I start shading it, I don't think. I mean, it's just, you know, base coating. But I thought tonight's a good opportunity to show y'all some base coating. And let's see, I'm going to do that. Just bouncing that up and down on the side. And then of course this is the brim of the hat, so that's not going to be purple, it's going to be a different color. And I'm loading up that brush. And while I'm at it, I didn't even think to say it, but what I did is I covered the hair and the face all with the scarecrow white. So this is normally what I would do. I did it just the way I would normally do it. Hey Darla, how are you? Hey Tay, how are you, baby? I went ahead and covered it, right? Because then tomorrow morning, I'll come back in and do the eyes, and I still got to base coat the eyes, then I've got to base coat the mouth, and I've got to base coat the hair. But to me, it's easier just to cover it all at once that way. Let it dry, and then come back and put on your other base colors. So if you have to sit there and base coat the face all around the eyes and not, don't hit the mouth, don't hit the eyes, don't hit the hair, that's a little more tedious. So if you have the time, I just go ahead and base coat it all one color, and then I'll come back and add my other base coat colors for my eye, base coat colors for my mouth, etc. So on this guy, and I'm gonna put a lot of shading purple on him. So this hat is really gonna darken up. I know that because the shading. Hey Carla, how are you? Because of the shading I'm going to put on the hat on Monday, it's gonna have a lot of dark purple. And because I know that hat's gonna end up being kind of dark, I'm going to go with my good old standby of yellow. Why? Because if I've got such a dark hat, I don't want the brim of my hat to be yellow too. Okay? I want that brim to be a lighter color. So whenever I do shade this guy on Monday, that it's going to look really good, because I'm going to have a darker purple hat and a lighter yellow brim. And I've just got this mop brush, right? And I'm just taking this mop brush, going back and forth. Hey Michelle, how are you? I'm so glad you could join us. I'm just base coating a, what do you call it? Scarecrow. Love scarecrows. Can't go wrong with a scarecrow in your yard for the fall. So this is a base coat color. Now I still will have to come back tomorrow and base coat the color on the eyes and base coat yellow on the hair and red on the mouth. But you get the idea. I haven't spent a lot of time base coating, and I just have gotten some good coverage. Now the tennis shoes, who knows what tennis shoes he could have. So let's say, this is just what I tend to do on my tennis shoes. I tend to always make this top part right here white. And then we might give him something kind of different. And I know tennis shoes are not green, I get that. But I think I'm gonna do green anyway. I think I'm gonna get some green on here because I don't have that. So I'm gonna put some white up on the top part of his tennis shoe. And again, I just take that mop brush and go back and forth, left and right, up and down, till I get a lot of paint on there. And then I'm gonna just kind of walk that paint where I want it to go. And this is like a rim, like the side part, the sole, I'm still gonna make that white too. I think y'all can hear my dogs, they're going crazy. I don't know if somebody had the audacity to walk by our house, because some of our dogs, they think if people walk by us, that it's like some sort of tragedy's happening. And when you have 5 dogs, y'all, they can make a lot of racket. But I love all of them, and I wouldn't do without them. So, okay, I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna bounce that paint, just kind of bounce it around left and right, up and down, you will. So I've got a lot of paint on these tennis shoes, and I might even have too much. So I'm still gonna do this. I'm gonna go up and down this way, because I was going left and right. Now I'm gonna go up and down, and then I'm gonna come back one more time and just kind of lay a smooth coat on there. Okay, so I've got that, and I'm gonna do green tennis shoes, even though I know tennis shoes are not green. I look at the piece right here, and what I see is I see a piece that has some of the pinks and the reds and the purples, which is good, but I don't see any green. So we're gonna put some green on this guy. Now, if you choose to buy this, feel free to do whatever color you want. It doesn't really matter. There's no right or wrong. It's a scarecrow. You can't go wrong. Just put colors on there that you like. Doesn't have to be this color. Okay, so I kind of got to the point where my brush is really so big for the job. Too big. So I've left myself some paint there. Watch what I'm going to do. So when I've got it here, hey Debbie, how are you? I'm so glad you guys could join us. I'm showing you how to do some scarecrow painting. Painting a scarecrow. So because my brush was too big for the area, I had that big mop brush. So I'm going to take this. I'm going to take my small script liner and I'm going to walk this paint into this little area over here using that script liner. So much of painting, I think, is technique. That's true. There's a lot of technique involved. But also, a lot of it is just knowing what size brush to use or which brush to use. That's what a lot of it is. So I have the sole of the tennis shoe. There's a little area up here. That's the sole of the side of the sole of the tennis shoe. And I want that white. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to come up in here. I'm going to lay some white in there. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, this is a base coat. So much of this is going to get covered up when I shade, highlight, and outline. But that's all right. We still have to have a base coat. So there's my tennis shoes, right? I hope some of you guys that, you know, just got to look at doing some base coating, that this is what you end up with if you choose. I'm going to kind of get up here. You see I got lots of paint on there, don't I? A lot of paint. This is just a base coat. I'm going to be doing this guy in the academy on Monday night. Okay, but I wanted you guys to see just a base coating technique. For those of you that just came on, here's what we did in the beginning of the video. If you want to go back and watch it, I actually painted the sunflower pumpkin. And Miss Victoria will be on in 2 weeks right here on this Facebook page, and she's going to be doing this same design, but it's going to be like her spin on it or her take on it. So it's the exact same design, but you're going to get two different views. And you don't have to do either one of them. You can do your own thing. But I just don't think you can go wrong with a sunflower and a pumpkin this time of year. So thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate y'all's support. I love seeing you guys out there. If you have any questions, definitely let us know. This is Yard Art Us. We have a website. We also have a retail store in Pearland. So if you're ever near Pearland, which is just south of Houston, Texas, come by and see us. We're open almost 7 days a week all the time. But I've enjoyed being here with you guys. Thank you so much. And y'all have a good evening. Bye-bye.